Hello and welcome to the official podcast of Palate Exposure, featuring Ilona Thompson, a podcast for those seeking the ultimate in wine, food, and travel. Each week she interviews winemakers, chefs, celebrities, and a variety of guests that shape the way we enjoy life.
Now there's been a whole bunch of technology that's come along during that time that helps validate that line of thinking. Mm-hmm. And so we have got some great products these days, like measuring real-time water flow through a vine, estimating real-time water flow through a whole vineyard footprint. Mm-hmm. We can actually look at what kind of evapotranspiration is happening with a set of vines, and that's really cool. That's like hooking up a mask to a person on a treadmill, where it's like, these are what you're making, this is what your body's making, and we get to learn these things about vines. But it should serve as a foundation to help us make a smarter managerial decision, mm-hmm. Or at least shift our knowledge about how we farm vineyards. And I think that's we're graduating to technology as being a bell and a whistle, like, oh wow, this is great new stuff, to saying this is really starting to integrate into what we do. So some of our vineyards, we have 3 or 4 different ways of looking at irrigation. The old tools, the new tools, and then the most important thing is I'm looking at it every week and saying yes or no to do we need to water or not. But it's amazing what every single one of our inputs has a dramatic impact on both the sustainability of our vineyard and the final wine outcome. So I'm very excited at any piece of technology that we see that challenges these sort of assumptions or the dogma that everybody's walking around with, which is mm-hmm. this is what a vineyard needs. And anytime that we have something that is a different way of looking at it, I get excited about that technology.
Is Napa the best place in the world to grow grapes, in your opinion?
Yeah, until the next one comes along.
Oh, there is a next one.
No, it's very interesting that it's the best place to grow the type of grapes that we grow. Does that mean it's the best place to grow grapes on earth? If I were a grapevine, I would love to live in Napa. That's why I live in Napa. Like, it's a beautiful climate all the time. Everything's great. Here we are on a rainy day of a string of a lot of rainy days, but it's still going to clear up, and we're going to have a really wonderful summer here. Somewhere in Greece is the perfect place to grow a modern, vineyard mm-hmm. as well.
Yeah.
But to do it in a style that's reminiscent of the wines that they make there. The Sonoma Coast is the perfect place for somebody to do a Pinot that they want in that style. Mm-hmm. So is the Willamette Valley. Napa is the perfect place for the type of grapes that we want to grow here. And I know that sounds like it's probably a little bit, cheesy or something, mm-hmm. But, if you've said that, if you've made the connection that wine is about a place,
yeah.
then there's no such thing as the perfect place. Mm-hmm. It's just, that's the wine that we make from this place. And I happen to think that Napa can make probably the broadest spectrum of the best wines out there, from a Ribolla Gialla to a Chardonnay to a Cabernet to even Pinots. We can make spectacular Pinots here. But again, there may be the best place on earth somewhere else that can make a perfect grape for that place. And right now, Napa is one of the best places to grow Cabernet and mm-hmm. make some of the world's best Cabernet, if not the best.
You mentioned spectacular Pinots from Napa.
I'm just throwing that out there.
I was going to say, Carneros.
just throwing that out there. Yeah, and again, Carneros. So you don't hear about it much, right? But we can make some really fantastic products out of Carneros. What's really cool about the valley is very short valley. We have arguably 3 or 4 different types of growing environments, mm-hmm. All the way down to the cool bay influence in Carneros, all mm-hmm. the way up to some of our hottest areas in the eastern hills of Napa, and just that wide swath of different growing conditions mm-hmm. means that really you could grow essentially anything here.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to recreate perfectly that Burgundy? Maybe not. But if Burgundy is the most perfect thing for your Chardonnay, then grow it in Burgundy. And if you want to make a true to type Napa style Chard, you can do it here. You can do it really well. And I think the next challenge for people is to think about that wine of place and match it to the place and match the consistency to that place. So what I'm really excited about now, and this has nothing to do with the viticulture end, but as people start thinking about long term about what they want out of their business, companies more and more have started to settle on a style, and they've settled on their wine style. And sometimes it's less about who the winemaker is. It's more about what can their properties do and what is their unique niche. And I like that. I think that's a sign of a mature market and a mature industry, where people have said, this is what we do, and we do it really well.
Yeah.
I think we're there.
Well, that's exciting. What are your thoughts on biodynamics? Are you a fan?
So biodynamics, organics, conventional farming, you name it. These are all disciplines for styles of farming that we apply. I think I did this math. I think close to 70% of our clients are certified organic. And so, to say that one style is better than another is not terribly fair. We can make absolutely spectacular wines under any discipline that we're given, or any direction that we're given. I think looking at through a slightly different lens, a lot of people tend to like to set up a condition where they're different than somebody else. And so that's more of a marketing tool and not really my area of expertise. But there's some people that want to be organic because they want to be different. That really doesn't resonate with me. What resonates with me is somebody who wants that discipline, wants to be organic because they want to be organic, because it's important to them.
Yeah.
Whether it's the right style of farming or not is kind of irrelevant. It's just something that they want to do. And anytime people are applying a very common set of, like, this is what I want to do in my vineyard, we get better outcomes. So there's no wishy-washiness. It's just, this is what I want to do. If we're being organic or being biodynamic or being anything really, having a sustainability certification, if it's just about checking a box, that's not exciting. If you believe in the core values of it, then I think that's exciting, and that's something that consumers should get behind those wines, because the people making them get behind them.
Yeah, it shows in the wine, huh? That intent.
Yeah, it's intent really, and again, if the intent is just to check a box, you're not going to make a better wine. If the intent is to make a better wine, no matter what the discipline, you're going to make a better wine.
And it's contextual, right? Some vineyards, it's not appropriate to do this type of practices, right? Yeah.
So sometimes using the organic practices, we have a smaller toolbox of things we can do in the vineyard. Being organic doesn't mean you're more sustainable. Doesn't mean you don't use pesticides. There's a lot of things that it doesn't mean. But what being organic is good about is that to be organic, to claim that you're organic, you have to have a certification, and there's a third-party program that audits everything that we do. And so the trust for a consumer, I think, is helpful in that end. So when we're CCOF certified farming, I sit down with a group of inspectors every year, and we go through all of our paperwork. We visit the vineyard, we look at our neighbors, we look at our chemical shed, we go through all these different things, and there's a verification piece in there that I think, in a lot of cases, I think that resonates with a consumer, because it's like, these guys, somebody's verified that they're doing a great job.
Yeah.
We do, so Napa County will be certified sustainable, basically. Sonoma, I'm sure you've talked about it before, has a certified sustainable goal. Similar things, we do audits for those. We have a third party come in and say that we are meeting our obligations for the discipline that we're farming under. And I think that can be valuable for a lot of consumers. If they haven't done that internal validation with that producer as well. I always invite people to go to the winery, talk to them about it. You know, if you want to know more about what people do as farmers, you know, don't rely on a third-party certification for it. Come see them, talk to them about it. Every single producer would be more than happy and willing to show people around a vineyard, show people what it means for us to care about where we grow and how we grow it. And that's you know, I think a shortcut is having a certification around it, but nothing is a substitute for just coming and visiting and seeing it with your own eyes.
I've heard opinions that the vineyards actually appear more alive. Like if you dig into the ground, there's all this activity going on. Is that true? Do organically farmed vineyards exhibit more vibrancy?
Not necessarily. I mean,
Okay.
I think a well-managed vineyard
Okay.
will, no matter what. I mean,
Okay.
there's, you know, a lot of people think that, like, you know, even in some of my conventionally farmed vineyards,
Yeah.
you'd walk in there, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And that's a good thing. There's a reason, you know, I'm not going to put something out in a vineyard unless it needs it.
Yeah.
Whether that's an organic vineyard or a conventional vineyard or a biodynamic vineyard, putting something out just because
Yeah.
it's the right calendar date, because it's the right whatever, putting compost out because that's just what I do. That style of farming is not, that doesn't resonate with me at all. And in a lot of cases, it can complicate the path that we've set a vineyard on for the wine quality that we're looking for.
Yeah.
So doing things by default, that's just lazy farming, whether you're touting it or not.
Yeah.
Doing things by default isn't advancing anything in a vineyard. And so, you know, where I have hang-ups with something that says you should do this is it may not be the right thing for the site. And I look at every single vineyard situation as what does this vineyard need? And I would hope that you walk into any of our vineyards and you go, wow, there's a good feeling about this property.
Yeah.
Now sometimes that can happen in an organic vineyard or a biodynamic vineyard or some other style of farming. But I think it goes back to that intent piece of it. So as long as any grower has intent to make their property shine, you're going to get that feeling as you walk through there.
So you've now observed Napa for a number of decades, changed a lot. So
Yeah.
what have been your observations on the more kind of seminal changes, like real shifts that you noted?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm recently past president of the Napa Valley Grape Growers, which is a fantastic organization, about 730 members. The majority of the growing of grape growers in Napa are members of this organization, and it really, having served 8 or 9 years on the board there, I got to see the passion that people have. And the desire to have Napa not just be the world's best place to grow grapevines, as we talked about, which I still think it is. Going back to that question you mentioned before, it is the best place. But to really be good stewards of the land, really care for an area, and that branches out. That's not just your property. That's a community involvement piece of it. That's when we launched the Napa Valley Farm Worker Foundation. Which is a fantastic program where we're building literacy programs, we're building all sorts of workforce education programs to build a sustainable vineyard business in Napa. Without people being integrated in our culture, in our society, in Napa, being able to buy a house here, live here, be where you work. Without having these community building efforts, we're potentially selling ourselves short from a sustainability standpoint. And what I like about the focus that we have today of all the people that I know growing grapes in Napa is to make Napa a better place. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. I don't know that you get that everywhere. I don't know that it's always been that case. There's always land speculators. There's always people that, if you could sell your property for housing, they would do it. But the people that are here today, they care. about where we're going to be in 30, 40, 50 years, long after they're gone. They really care about it. And that to me is something that I see as I raise children here, and as I look for, how do we keep a very sustainable community going and having it look generally similar to when I was a kid, which it is. I think about all the places that have changed in the Bay Area here. You go to every single farming community that existed in the 60s, they're all gone.
Silicon Valley is probably the most dramatic. So.
Right, except for here in Napa and to a certain extent, rangeland in Marin County and rangeland and vineyards in Sonoma. But even those places are getting paved over at a pretty rapid clip. Here in Napa, we've managed to stave that off, and it's for the better. It really is. So as I look towards ways that we can make Napa a better place, it comes with building a broader community, working well with our neighbors, working well with other industries to make sure that agriculture can remain a very prominent fixture in Napa County for hopefully forever.
Yeah, no, you're so right in pointing out this is kind of the bastion, it's such a nucleus of what's important about, viticulture gets romanticized, and I'm a little taken aback. You said 730 members. I didn't realize there was that many.
Right.
It's the common conversation is around vintners and winemakers. They're kind of the rock stars that get popularized in the media and such. But the real core strength is within the grape growers because they're the ones that make it possible.
Right. And most of those members are, have varying businesses. They're winery people as well. They're, what I think the common connection is really the land. And when we look at making smart decisions about what we do on our land, that's how we can ensure that Napa stays what it is. Very similar to today. Obviously, we have pressures for selling wine and tourism and all these different things. Those are not unique to Napa. That's everywhere, right? There's traffic and housing issues. We're in California. Everybody wants to be here, and there's a smart balance between solving some of those issues and still keeping agriculture front and center, and that's what we're trying to do. I think that's outside of just making fantastic wines. We have to be able to protect a place like this that we can do this in the future. I look that question you had about is Napa the best place to grow grapes? I think if you asked that same question 50, 60 years ago, they would have said Livermore Valley is the best place to grow grapes. You can't get any better, and it's gone, nearly completely gone in terms of what agriculture used to be there and what it is now. And we have an obligation as landowners here in Napa to really protect that. We also have an obligation here to encourage other municipalities to forge a similar path. Here we have an agricultural product that can pay to stay in agriculture, and that is fantastic. We can pay the bills with wine, and I think that's something that not everybody understands, but it's the most important thing to keep Napa from becoming just another urbanized place.
From the consumer participation standpoint, I feel like the conversation gets changed more towards how pricey things are and how exclusive and such like that. But there's a real heart and soul to that agrarian part of it. And in terms of what consumers can do, besides the obvious, which is buy the wines.
Right.
I really liked when you invited them to come to the source, because at the end of the day, rather than taking other people's opinions, and there's not always that much truth in what makes it in the media because it's a marketing arm.
Right.
Wouldn't it be better if they actually came to you and asked you those questions so they can understand what's really happening?
Yeah, I think it's an important thing. The way my brain works is, I understand something when I can immerse myself in it, when I can visit, when I can go to another culture and spend a week there, and I feel like I understand it better. And I think to a certain extent, we can't have everybody come to Napa. I mean, that's not a reality. But I think you can make lots of other ways to learn about what we do here. That can be through, like your podcast, learning more about this place. You can care about Napa from afar. That's not a problem. But it is important when you come here and you can taste something that's taken somebody 2 or 3 years to make. They've poured their heart and soul into it. They've spent the entire year toiling over this in the vineyard, and then another 2 years toiling over this in the cellar, and then putting everything they are into a bottle and asking somebody to come and evaluate it. You can meet with them at the top of the hill, and you can look over this valley and you can go, wow, this is special. You can't get that with an artichoke. You can't get that with a widget or whatever else you do. We're making something here that can really transport you to a place in time. Now, whether you enjoy that wine at your house in Chicago, or you enjoy that wine, on vacation in Napa, I think both places can get you to the same place. I mean, when you take a wine back with you from Napa to another place, it's a way to share those experiences again and sort of relive it. So I would encourage everybody to at least make a trip to Napa once, look at it with your own eyes, meet some really fantastic producers, buy their wines, and in the dog days of winter, open one of those Cabernets and go, wow, I'm transported back to what Napa is. And as long as we keep that going, I think there's a real chance for us to keep agriculture here for forever. And that comes with a consumer connection, not just the people that live here. It really, if we want to keep special places like this, we need to keep the economic engine going as well.
What a beautiful sentiment, and there's an actionable part to it. So people that are listening, hopefully, will really get a sense of not only it's a special place, but it's populated by special people that are really welcoming and hospitable. And because wine is a product of so much human intent as well as the land, if you can come and partake in it, I think it just elevates your experience as a human being. It's not just about wine.
Right.
And the spirit lives here. I've been coming here for a couple of decades, and that hasn't changed. It hasn't been compromised by the fact that the economics obviously has gotten a bit more brutal and the entry fee has risen. But at its core, it's still a really welcoming, hospitable, generous place.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I think it's the entry price you mentioned is high, and I think in a lot of cases that's unavoidable. We are here in California. Everything's expensive, as you know,
right.
And more around the rest of the country, it's getting that way. But I think there's so many opportunities to come and learn from somebody who's really authentic and so involved in this business. All too often you hear in the media, there's another corporate winery and so and so sold here and there. Almost everything here is a family winery or a family business. Even the large ones that you think about, there's a handful of places that fit that corporate model.
Yeah.
You're going to get that everywhere, but what you are going to find in every person that works on the ground here is really authenticity. Whether you work at a big international spirits company, or you work at a mom and pop winery, every single person working in those places cares about what they do, and I think that's a narrative you don't hear too much about. Everybody likes to bash the corporate guy, but they forget that there's hundreds of people that work under there that actually do care about what we do, and they're integrated in this community, and they work really well to protect it at the same time, even though their board of directors may not live here. So it's interesting, but I think we owe it to ourselves to every chance we have, whether we live here or not, really appreciate the hard work that goes into the wines that we make here, and I hope consumers see that and continue to buy Napa wines, and not only that, use it as a platform to to advance your other wine knowledge. I mean, I think this day and age, nothing's more fun than picking 5 or 6 top wines from different areas and open them blind and see what you like. It's really cool. But I'm happy to live here and work here, and And I think industrious people that are good at this type of agriculture are always welcome here. And if anybody is looking to get into this business, definitely go to UC Davis. I got to give a pitch for them.
Of course.
But there's plenty of ways to get into this business, and it's a really fun one. I wouldn't. I certainly thought of myself and growing up here as could have gone on to different paths. But it worked out for me, and I think I'm happy to share in this special place here.
So what do you think you would have been if you weren't a viticulturalist?
Good question. So my brother is a hydrologist, and he works for a large water district in the South Bay. I did a lot of work in summertime working with folks that were doing survey work through Dry Creek, the Dry Creek Stewardship Group, a lot of additional environmental work as well. I think I probably would have gone into the hydrology world if not Vineyards. And it's very interesting. There's just so much talent in the Bay Area for sure.
Yeah.
But even around here, you get people that can come into the vineyard business as a second career. It's just really exciting. But for me, it was halfway predetermined, and I'm happy about that. For my kids, I don't know what they're going to want to do. My guess would be, they may not want to have anything to do with vineyards and wine. I don't know. Usually that happens in third and fourth generation.
Well, we're very happy as well that you both were destined, but you also made a choice to become a viticulturalist, because when I look out the window, I see the labor of love. I mean, literally driving up here, I was noting how manicured and just majestic this vineyard is that you tend to. So it's such a pleasure visually. And I really love the optimistic note that you've expressed just a few moments ago. Especially in the media, we're so guilty of sensationalizing and talking about negative things. But I think what's really clearly lacking in us as a society is, that pleasurable part when, we're knee deep in all kinds of life's issues, and just looking at something like this makes you want to smile, and you feel like, hey, life is about enjoyable things. And, you've made mention that, for those that are listening, whether you're a hedonist, like I am, a card-carrying one, this is a paradise. Or if you care about some of, more political issues such as sustainability, this is another great example, like you've pointed out throughout the conversation. If you care about immigration issues, you're a job creator. A lot of people that work in the vineyards happen to be immigrants. So there's so many different aspects to the valley that you can participate in actively or just observationally. But it galvanizes so many wonderful forces that I feel fortunate sitting here with you and hearing your story. So thank you for that.
Great, thank you.
Thanks again for tuning in to the official podcast of Palate Exposure featuring Ilona Thompson. We'll see you again next week. that shape the way we enjoy life.